Please welcome Greg Levesque, co-founder and CEO of Strider, for a tech talk on China's AI infrastructure with Chip Usher, Senior Director for Intelligence at SCSP.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Chip Usher. I'm the Senior Director for Intelligence here at SCSP, joined by my good friend, Greg Levesque.
Hey, it's great to be with everybody here today. And as Chip said, my name is Greg Levesque. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Strider Technologies. And at Strider, we combine open source data collection with AI to develop a whole suite of new capabilities and tools, predominantly for industry to understand nation-state threats to their companies, their supply chains, and their technologies. And I'm thrilled to have teamed up with Chip and SCSP to help you leverage some of that capability, and with SCSP's expertise on AI and the policy trajectory of that technology, on a report to examine what is China doing to become the global leader in AI. And this is a real tech race that we're in today. We've launched a new report with SCSP called China's AI Infrastructure Surge, which we'll be discussing today and sharing some of those findings with all of you.
So in 2017, the PRC State Council announced its plans for AI build-out. And their goals were specifically to achieve what they called world-leading levels of AI by 2030. So what we did in conjunction with Strider is we took a look at their progress so far here in 2025. A significant portion of China's plan called for AI, of their policies called for the build-out of AI-related infrastructure. These are the data centers, the networks, and the algorithms that go into an AI stack. Without this infrastructure, AI is simply an idea on a whiteboard. What's astonishing is the speed with which China is making progress in developing its AI tech stack. Let's start with compute. And as you see on this slide behind me, an exaflop, well, let me briefly explain. A floating point operations per second is a general measure of a computer's power and performance. An exaflop is 10 to the 18th. So according to our research and declared plans, China has at least 300 exaflops of deployed compute power right now, a third of which is dedicated to artificial intelligence. And that may be actually a conservative number, because through the work through Strider, we've identified potentially another 450 exaflops of compute capacity that may indeed be dedicated to their AI technologies.
So let's dig into some of the key findings here. We put a little map up for everybody to kind of see where these data centers have been built. So some of the key findings here, first and foremost, rapid growth in data center announcement and construction, specifically for AI compute. High geographic concentration, as you guys can see here, East Coast and West. I'll get into that in a minute. That is not, that's intentional, this construct of where they are building these centers. There's significant involvement from the Chinese military, the PLA, across these infrastructure build-out. And we'll talk about that in a minute as well. And as Chip noted, they are already beating their projected plans for compute capacity, and that's not slowing down. There are only more plans coming out to expand that compute and infrastructure build-out across the country. So at Strider, what we did is we looked at what were the data centers just being used for AI compute, and we identified about 207 of them across the country as it sits today. Every single province or administrative region in China has one of these centers, except Tibet. And what we're seeing here is the manifestation of a strategy. So China calls it East Data, West Compute. And that's not to mean that there aren't compute capabilities in the eastern part of the country, but what they're trying to achieve here is a national effort to prepare the country and the country's infrastructure for the AI, as I'll call it, the AI tsunami that is coming, and that is already here. So this plan was formalized in 2021. So I also want to highlight, this has been happening and implementing for about 4 years. And we're already seeing this rapid build-out in infrastructure and capacity. And some of it is also pretty unique. We're seeing data centers that are actually sub-sea off Hainan Island, right? This is a pretty novel approach, reduces costs for cooling down those centers. And that's the same logic by putting them in the western part of the country as well. These are areas that are more rural, access to cheap energy resources that can compute and process these AI systems at scale. So that's, I think, a really core part of what we're trying to highlight for everybody here is that China is not only developing the strategy, but more importantly, it's implementing at a rapid clip. Far more so than many other countries are aware of, but more importantly, pacing.
And it's focused and concentrated, right? So a lot of these AI data centers are in specifically designated tech hubs. So it really speaks to like the concerted national strategic plan that Beijing is embarked upon. And it doesn't just stop at China's borders. It's not depicted here, but we have also identified PRC data centers that are being built in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in the Philippines, and they have plans to do so in other Belt and Road Initiative countries. Why? Because it gives them access and influence with those countries. It also enables some of their military and other activities, diplomatic activities in other parts of the world, and it's a great way for them to help avoid US export controls against chips and other elements of their tech stack.
So as Chip was talking, I mean, it also made me think through another aspect of this. Where our report is very focused on the AI data centers and that infrastructure, but it's also linked up with just data collection more broadly. China has a very clear-cut strategy to be a global leader in data collection that feeds these AI systems. And what we're trying to really map out here is the totality of the effort at scale. So as part of that effort, of the 207 data centers, we also looked at who owns them, who operates them, who supplies them. We identified about 318 unique PRC entities that were involved in the build-out of these centers. As you guys can see here, the bulk of them are companies, so corporate entities, 228, a handful of research institutes and universities, and 77 of them are government entities. Now, on the next slide, we'll dig into this a little bit more here, but this is fully integrated with China's strategy called military-civil fusion. And military-civil fusion isn't just about dual use, it's about leveraging state resources that can be applied to technologies that have both military applications and commercial, but still are not fully integrated into military operations. So this is another part of what we're trying to uncover here is, what is the extent of PLA, so People's Liberation Army involvement in this build-out? How is that informing their development of AI systems in the military? And what we're seeing is this is one and the same. So it's difficult to start to cut this out and say this is for a company, this is for the military. As they're building these centers out, they're just integrating them together, which is creating a whole new suite of national security and legal and compliance risks for companies in interacting with those centers as well.
What's really cool is this all has been made available by open source information, right? It's just Strider's technical know-how about how to exploit that information that allows us to deliver these types of insights. So we've talked a lot about the compute power, data centers, but it's a similar story on the algorithms, the models that China is developing to actually make use of generative and other forms of artificial intelligence. The Cyberspace Administration of China is the regulatory authority in that country that actually approves all large language models. So far, they've approved about 2,000. Through our research, we identified no fewer than 208 that are directly tied to the People's Liberation Army or the country's security service in one way, shape, or another. They increasingly are using these large language models for military purposes, right? This isn't just our DoD making use of ChatGPT, but these are models that are specifically designed with some military purposes in mind. For example, the Tianji military model platform, developed by Xiamen Yuanting Information Technology, is a military-focused large language model, explicitly designed to support multi-domain joint combat operations in all domains, air, land, sea, and cyber. Another example is XSimVerse, which is developed by the Beijing Huarui Technology, which focuses, in their words, on military intelligence products and provides 25 AI-driven applications, including intelligent command and decision-making, virtual training, and simulation for combat exercises. Of course, AI is the classic dual-use technology. So even some of the civilian models that they are developing for commercial purposes have potentially military significance or significance for China's strategic aims. Let's take just one example. There is the Sichuan Media Group, which is affiliated with that province's CCP committee, and it's developing a large language model specifically for strategic communications to foreign audiences. This is the perfect platform for PRC AI models to promote China's strategic messaging, engage in propaganda and disinformation, and at scale. The other thing to realize, and again, a lot of credit to Strider for achieving these insights, is that a lot of the companies in China and organizations that are involved with their AI build-out themselves have deep connections with foreign countries. In some cases, many of those partners are in Five Eye countries or in Japan. We have some specifics to offer on that. We identified 28 AI data center stakeholders across China. And notably, 18 of those who have partnerships with foreign companies and institutions in Five Eye ally nations and in Japan, no fewer than 18 also have direct relationships with the PLA. So this cooperation that some foreign partners are extending to China has a direct beneficial output and impact for the Chinese military.
So when you take this build out in its totality, and as Chip gave examples of the way that they are implementing AI technology domestically, but its impact on us internationally, and then more importantly, the role that foreign companies are playing in providing software or other service support to those data centers, I think we should also take a step back and say, what is going on in this relationship? We are in a full-blown tech race with China on AI. It is a race to AGI. And we need to begin to take a model and an approach that looks at it through that lens. We need different tools from an economic security playbook. We need to be engaging with industry to understand how these trade dynamics are occurring, because fundamentally industry is leading that effort. That is where the talent exists for AI. That is who's developing these models. But more importantly, that is who is going to allow us as a country to stay ahead of the curve and to continue to outpace our adversaries. And I think that requires a whole of nation response. So we put together just a small subset of policy recommendations in the report that help to hit this point home. This is not a US government problem. This is an America problem. This is something that we all need to think through what our roles are as universities, companies, and government agencies, and coordinate our activities so that we can more effectively protect our businesses, our people, and the promise that AI holds for our society.
Yeah. Export controls are still going to be a vital tool for the United States, no question about it. But I think what companies like Strider are proving is that we need to amp up our game. Greg, I've heard you talk about this before. We need to go beyond just putting certain technologies and companies on a list. This needs to be a dynamic, faster moving set of policy implementations here in the United States to track in real time what Chinese companies are seeking to achieve with their AI technologies, how they're obtaining them, what their supply chains look like, and how we can protect our companies, our industry, and our supply chains from attacks from theirs. And of course, the relationships with our Five Eye partners, with Japan and other allies around the world are going to be absolutely vital. If we're shoring up our defenses, but our friends and allies are not, then our AI race will suffer as a result of that.
And look, industry has to be the lead. I mean, this is, I think, just a frank reality of the situation that we're in today. There needs to be a national security mindset and a national security framework woven into the executive decision-making process for some of these companies. And it begins with understanding the threat. It begins with understanding the landscape that they are operating in and the core interests that we have as a country and what I would call the free world, right? The US and our allies. Because fundamentally, and as Chip noted, companies are taking this problem on their own. They are being targeted by nation-state intelligence services to recruit their employees. Their supply chains are being infiltrated. Their companies are being hacked, and data is being exfiltrated and stolen. They're already in the game. They're already in the fight. We need to figure out how to now organize some of that corporate decision-making so that it advances US national interests, competitiveness, and allows us to stay ahead of the race. So I just want to hit that point home really hard. Like corporate America needs to understand their role in the national security construct and compact that we have in this country. My personal experience and view is many of them do. Many of them are trying their best to put frameworks together to invest in capabilities so that they can protect their businesses and people and have that national mindset behind it.
So I think as this map shows, what China's doing is no accident. They have a strategic game plan in mind, an extreme amount of focus and very ambitious goals, and they're putting an enormous amount of resources on it. And they're achieving progress. I think what you've heard a lot about in the last 2 days, and you will for one more here at the SCS Expo, is the transformative power of artificial intelligence. Not only to change our economy, the way that we work, the way we live, but also our national security. It's a race that we have to win. And what we're seeing here through the help of companies like Strider is China's very serious about their progress, and they're taking concerted efforts to achieve advantage. We need to do likewise and amp up our game to win this strategic AI race for the future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Chip.